Municipality of McDougall declaring an emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as requirements for social distancing. This committee council meeting will be held electronically in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001. I would ask that the clerk now take a roll call to determine quorum and advise who is participating in our meeting here tonight. Mrs. West.
Mayor Robinson.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Constable.
Present.
Councillor Gregory.
Present.
Councillor Mallock.
Present.
Councillor Ryan.
Present.
It's determined that we do have quorum to proceed with the meeting. I'll now take attendance of staff to advise who is joining us today. Tim Hunt, CEO.
Present.
Chief Leduc.
Present.
Aaron Robinson, Treasurer.
Present.
Kim Dixon, Chief Building Official.
Present.
Nick Thompson, Public Works Manager.
Present.
Steve Goldman, Environmental Services Supervisor.
Present.
And myself, Lori West, Clerk.
Thank you. A reminder, council, that movers and seconders for all motions have been assigned. If when the motion is read, you would prefer not to move or second a particular motion, please let me know at that point in time. I'll now call this meeting to order. Any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Prioritization of the agenda, addition to item 20.1, bylaw 2020-41 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a subdivision agreement between Grandview Estates, Inc. and the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall. Any other changes to the agenda? Nope. Thank you. Adoption of minutes. Moved by Councillor Constable. Seconded by Councillor Ryman, that the minutes of the committee council meeting held August 5th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Deputations, one scheduled for tonight. Daryl Moffat and Forrest Pengra, IceCap co-chairs, regarding the Integrated Community Energy and Climate Action Plans. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. My name is Daryl Moffat, and I am the co-chair of IceCap. I'm here with Forrest Pengra, who will introduce himself momentarily. We're also joined by Benjamin John from the Georgian Bay Biosphere. Not only am I the co-chair, I'm also Township of Seguin councillor. So if you want to...
Absolutely. I'm Forrest Pengra. I'm the Town of Parry Sound representative and co-chair for the staff representative. I'm excited to come talk to you about the IceCap project or collaborative. And I guess we can just get started then.
You want to share the screen?
Yeah. Let's see.
We have a short PowerPoint presentation, so we're just going to pull it up here.
All right. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, you're on our big screen, and we have you on our council package as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So IceCap is the Integrated Community Energy and Climate Action Plans Group. We're here obviously to tell you about IceCap, the membership, the collaboration as a whole, but also to ask you to join the fold and come join us. Now, there is one ask before that, and that is to join the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partners for Climate Protection Program. It's a program through the FCM that's growing in interest and sits somewhere around 400 members throughout Ontario. We all can see and experience climate change in differing ways throughout our neighborhoods, our environment, and it's especially noticeable to municipalities who are seeing increased damage to our infrastructure, rising insurance costs, increased likelihood of disasters and disaster response and the associated costs, but also in regard to future planning implications. And those can be related to public works, they can be related to building, planning, disaster planning, all that sort of thing. And what's been identified through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is $6 can be avoided in costs by spending $1 upfront in disaster mitigation. And we'll get into some of the things that municipalities can and should be doing to help with that, basically to save money in the long run in the future. So what does this mean for you? I'm going to read a brief quote from AMO, Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Municipal governments play a key role in safeguarding local environmental quality, building resiliency, and protecting their residents from significant climate change events. And AMO further notes that climate change impacts municipal operations in the following: core infrastructure, buildings, waste diversion, wastewater management, stormwater management, and actually quite a few other areas. Now, in regard to climate change at the core municipal level and the core services that we as municipalities provide to our ratepayers, there's all sorts of things that can be done, should be done, and in a lot of ways already are being completed, sometimes in different ways, sometimes under different initiatives, but the municipalities as a whole have been directed, in Ontario at least, to prepare 5-year conservation and demand management plans, as well as reporting on annual energy consumption for quite a variety of facility types that municipalities have within their borders. We went looking for McDougall's conservation and demand management plan on the website. We were unable to find that. We were able to find some incomplete energy usage data on the broader public sector website, just to try to get a better understanding of what the municipality is doing presently. McDougall may or may not be working on climate change adaptation or mitigation strategies. You're surely working on waste management plans, studies, and information surrounding waste management as a whole. And you're definitely working within public works for transportation-related plans and other areas of infrastructure like water, sewer, and roads, drainage, that sort of thing. So for the presentation, we pulled together some information, specifically Ben, who's on the call as well, regarding the area population and energy use per capita. And interestingly enough, so McDougall's population makes up 12.5% of the area, but the area residential energy consumption makes up 17.3%. We're not exactly sure why it's 30% more than other areas, but it's certainly worth an investigation. Okay, so, and I've heard the argument numerous times regarding, whether it's the FCM PCP or other areas for conservation, demand management, and the like, that these issues are of a provincial nature, or these issues are of a federal nature. But the reality is all layers of government and all residents, we all play a very, very important role. In fact, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities came out with the following. They've said municipalities have influence over roughly 50% of greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. By adopting practices that reduce GHG emissions, municipalities can improve the quality of life of their residents while saving money in operations and energy costs. And so there's been a lot of work done in other areas of the province. In fact, just to the south of us is the Sustainable Severn Sound, and they've been they've been a great partner in this actually. Through Township of Georgian Bay, we've had a fair bit of interaction, and they've set their energy reduction target for their area at 6%. Now, when you look at McDougall and say there's 1,100 private households spending on average $2,300 per year in home energy, another close to $2,000 in vehicle costs, you know, that translates out to about $340,000 in potential savings that municipalities can have influence in through various reduction strategies, projects, collaborations, and the like.
Thanks, Forrest. So this is just a map of the area that we've done, put together. And just a little bit of history here is that IceCap started off a number of years ago, you know, amongst conversations with municipalities, but in reality, it was formed early in 2020. And you can see by the green color shading on the screen here, we have the archipelago, we've got Carling, we've got Seguin, we have Township of Georgian Bay, we have McKellar, Town of Parry Sound as well. But there's two off color or red squares. One is the Municipality of McDougall as well as Whitestone. And what we're looking to do is try to fill those with green as opposed to a shade of red by having, as Forrest mentioned, joining the IceCap team. So we have also been in discussions with area First Nations. They've all been invited to participate, to collaborate. We've had a meeting early in February. We're scheduled for another meeting in September. So it is a joint venture led by the municipalities. Right now, the First Nations are not members, and we're looking obviously to bring them as part of it. So we're looking at various programs that we're doing, Partners for Climate Protection for municipalities and Indigenous Community Energy Plan for First Nations as well. We've also, you're very familiar with the Wellness Center. It's a collaboration of area municipalities. We also have the West Parry Sound Geography Network, which is also a collaboration of the area as well. And that's what IceCap is trying to do, is work together as a team in the region to tackle greenhouse gas emissions. So turning to IceCap specifically, the purpose of IceCap is it's a partnership between the municipalities and First Nations located in the Georgian Bay Biosphere region for the purpose of a collaborative, more cost-effective approach to energy management and a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions for the operations of each corporate stakeholder, for each participating community, and for the broader region. And this was formed, as I said, back in February. This, everyone got around the table, everyone, put their 2 cents in, and we were able to, come forward. And these are the objectives that we agreed on, was to encourage the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, improve energy efficiency, reduce the use of fossil fuels, and adapt to a changing climate by building greater resilience. Everyone, I'm sure, would agree that climate change is upon us, and it's a matter of, if you want to steal from the COVID-19, trying to flatten the curve, trying to take whatever steps necessary in order to tackle greenhouse gas emissions, so that the impact of those hopefully in the future will be reduced. So as Forrest mentioned, there is back in January of 2020, there was 400 municipalities that were part of the Partners for Climate Protection. And you can see just a mere 5 months before that, 350 municipalities, so quite a jump. We don't have the current, July or August data, but I would imagine that we've grown, north of 400 as well. So Partners for Climate Protection, what we're looking at is sort of two avenues. One is the corporate side of things, which would be the municipality, and the community side of things, which would be all the residents of McDougall. Corporate side, we're looking at building, transportation, waste, water, streetlights. And Forrest, maybe you can give the example of the streetlights that we talked about.
Yeah, so a lot of this is we know actions are being taken. As a McDougall ratepayer myself, I see you guys have changed out a large number of your street lights and to the far more efficient LEDs. But it's not just stopping at these particular projects. It's looking at this long term. So, and that's really what the province's intent of the 5-year conservation and demand management plan was. How do we do this not just for these small single projects, but how do we do this for the long term? And it's starting to look at other areas. It's like, well, now we have these great new LED lights, but maybe there's some technologies that can make them even more efficient. And so we're starting to look at, potentially smart photo cells that create a mesh network that can further reduce energy. It's creating these plans, and not just plans for the sake of planning, but plans for a strategy for greenhouse gas reduction. And very, very frequently, what goes in tandem with that is reduced operational costs.
So the other side of the Partners for Climate Protection is the community, which is, as I mentioned, residents, commercial, industrial, transportation, and waste. And each of these have a set defined milestone noted here at the bottom. And develop a baseline of energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. And that's really where we're at. Some municipalities have moved forward and established those baselines. We're working now with the community, starting off here in the summer of 2020 to get those baseline energy consumption data. Once we have that, we're going to look to set targets to reduce energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, both on the corporate and the community side. We're going to then start to work on a plan to achieve the targets, implement the plan, and review the progress and assess the results. And one of the tools that we've come up with, working with Georgian Bay Biosphere, is what is classified as, or what is categorized as it's the carbon calculator. And it's a very simple tool. It takes about 15 minutes. We have a checklist available for residents to before they get on the computer. We also have these in hard copy to be able to figure out what their carbon calculator is and their number, and to look and identify whether it's waste, whether it's in transportation, whether it's in heating. Very easy to do, spits it out, and then you have something tangible that you can work with and say, okay, in my example, I have a high transportation. I drive a diesel truck and a hybrid car. So I try to balance off the two. And my waste and my energy from my buildings is rather low, but on my transportation is high. So it gives me an idea as to where I'm at and what I can do to improve that. So very easy to do. As if you're a member of IceCap, the information would be, we've had a lot of social media postings over the last few months. Where there's a contest being run on Moose Radio now with regards to getting people engaged and trying to move forward with the carbon calculator to calculate the results and to be able to then get that baseline data.
And the beauty of it is the carbon calculator, as it's been rolled out right now, people from McDougall are already using it. So the option is there is a drop down for the municipality, whatever municipality you live in, and people are populating that. And essentially, I think what Daryl and I really are trying to drive home is there is strength in numbers. There are efficiencies to be had by working collaboratively, and that a lot of this information it's more efficient to capture it and gather it once. Namely this carbon calculator tool. I mean, it is what is going to make our models for community energy usage, or more specifically greenhouse gas emissions, just that much more accurate.
So to turn back from our original slide, our ask, join the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partner for Climate Protection, which is a free membership. The second ask is to come and join us collaboratively and work with IceCap. There is a $2,500 membership fee. That gives you a seat at the table. That gives you a vote. That gives you input into the direction of where and what IceCap is doing. It also demonstrates leadership at the municipal level for your residents, as Forrest mentioned, that are using and are aware of IceCap and looking for the municipality for that leadership. There's the base fee of the $2,500, but there is also an additional fee you know, as we roll out programs, develop programs and stuff, obviously that costs money. And, you know, that comes with an additional price tag. But membership fee to, you know, to basically to have the seat at the table, to be able to discuss and shape how things come is really, you know, it would be really good if McDougall would consider that and join the IceCap partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have your presentation in our package as well. At this point in time, I'll see if council has any questions or comments in terms of your presentation. Council? Councillor Ryman?
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just wondering, you said that, mentioned that there was extra fees. Do we have any idea what those approximate fees might be over and above the annual membership of $2,500?
Through me to you, gentlemen, do you have, have you seen any expenditures over and above the membership so far from your participating municipalities?
So in 2020, our budget was about $8,000 per municipality. And we're in the process of establishing a budget for 2021. And, you know, as we mentioned, we've done the carbon calculator, we've done a number of, you know, stakeholder engagement, you know, data gathering. So this first year is, you know, we're evaluating where we are with the costs. Forrest and I are sitting down and evaluating that to set our budget for 2021. But that's what the number was, Councillor, with regards to 2020.
And I will add that at the beginning of every year, we're doing an annual work plan. So for the total cost of the $8,000 this year, we were able to complete corporate milestone 1. And we are 40% of the way through community milestone 1 as well. So essentially there's two paths. There's the corporate side, which is municipal emissions, and then there's the community side, which are obviously community emissions. And so within that, there's different reporting requirements. And as you make your way through, say, corporate milestone 1, you get a checkbox next to that, and you get an award, and it's a pretty neat process. But you know, when you get through, really the community milestone is probably the harder to do, but also the more meaningful. So municipalities as a whole, it's estimated between 1.5 and 3% of the emissions in a community.
We got to cut this short here because we've already gone way over the allotted 10-minute time, whatever. So just a quick answer to Councillor Ryman's question is $2,500 membership fee, and each municipality has been $8,000 on top of that?
No, in total, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay, well, thank you for your time and all the hard work that you're doing that. I mean, I don't think anyone is not aware there's climate change going on. The big discussion is how much of it's caused by humans and how much is it's Mother Nature's impact on it. And that's a discussion for some pretty wise people to go back and forth with and do. But we all know that mankind is contributing in some way to it. So anything we can do to help out obviously is an important thing to do. I think what I'm going to suggest to our council at this point is we'll probably have this come back to our council table attached with maybe some information from our staff in terms of what we've been doing ourselves in terms of, Mr. Pangor mentioned the street light program, the LED, and I know there's some other things we're doing and some other climate mitigation we've been doing of ditching and that sort of thing, but maybe we need to see it all together under a package heading of climate change so council can sort of have a better understanding of this and the budget implications before we go forward. So it'll probably come forward to a council meeting not too far in the future for us to take a look at this and see if we can join you in the good work that you're doing. But I do thank you for what you've done so far. Obviously your hearts are in it, and that's good to see.
Very good. Thank you. Have yourselves a great evening.
Okay. Good night. Matters arising. I just think under this, if council is agreeable, then maybe if that's the plan I outlined is if something is for a future council meeting, we can kind of, I mean, I know when we're doing things, we've had the, I know we did the audit that did most of our buildings in terms of our electricity use, including the landfill site, which was a major user of electricity in that. So maybe if we can at some point have some package kind of come back together and see whether it's the benefits to us being part of a larger group or whether how we're doing on our own for doing this. But I'm well aware that our staff and our citizens are active in this area already for doing it. So it would be good if staff's agreeable and council's agreeable to that approach.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know all the stuff that we've done. I know bits and pieces over the years, but I can't remember them all. So it's just your package or something.
Okay. So we can leave that as direction then?
Yes.
Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Item 6, planning and building. Mr. Jackson, Prairie Sound Area Planning Board, consent application number 18 for Goodrich Lot Addition, McDougall Road.
With council's permission, sorry, Your Worship, Mr. Jackson is just trying to get into the meeting at the moment, so perhaps we could bring forward the report of the chief building official at this time.
Okay, so we'll move ahead to that item. Mr. Dixon.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Just a quick update, give you a synopsis of where we're at with the building department. Currently, as of the end of August, we are sitting at about 80 permits issued compared to 57 the previous year. And we've collected roughly $97,000 in building permit fees. So that's a good thing. We, start of the year, we were quite concerned, or at least I was quite concerned with the impact of COVID and things like that, whether it was going to have a negative impact on building activity, and that appears to have subsided. And as long as things keep going the way they are, I think we'll have a pretty strong year.
Questions or comments from council? I know just from driving around the municipality, it's encouraging to see all the new builds that are underway, and that's just a few that I can see from the road and doing that. So it's encouraging. But I think that it's kind of, I think overall people have been kind of surprised at how our activity in terms of recreational activities and building activities are really, don't think anyone ahead of time would have predicted this going into a pandemic situation, but it seems to have encouraged a lot of people to start doing things that they've been putting off for a while to go.
Yeah, it seems to be that's the case. Like you say, a lot of people have a bit more time to think of projects, and I've been putting an extra emphasis on getting permits out and getting inspections done fairly quickly. I think the easier you make the process for people, the more likely they are to do the process properly.
The only complaint I've heard from the building side is availability of materials.
Yeah.
Seems to be pressure treating cement seems to be the most popular one.
That's
but
correct.
And the lumber yards are catching up with that now, so that's good.
Yep.
Anyway, good to see we're keeping you busy. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Jackson's joined us now, I see. So we'll go back to the item 6.1, the consent application for Goodrich, the lot addition. Welcome, Mr. Jackson.
Thanks, Mayor Robinson.
Do you want to give us a quick summary of what this one is?
Yeah, this is actually a fairly straightforward application that will allow the property that's being acquired by a third party to have an appropriate access along McDougall Road, whereas as it sits now, the MTO would not allow for an access to it. So it's extending its frontage along McDougall Road to a point where the MTO will allow access.
Okay. See in the report, it says, as per the applicant, the MTO is agreeable. Do we have confirmation directly from the MTO that they're agreeable?
The application would have been circulated to MTO, and the way we cover that off is that we put a condition on that a final clearance is required for them. But I have talked to the applicant and the purchaser directly, and they both believe that to be the case.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Any concerns? No? Okay, well, I agree it's pretty straightforward, and it's good to make that basically landlocked parcel usable now. So that's good. So the next step on that one will be?
We'll bring a resolution forward with our recommendations, or with our conditions.
Okay. Item 6.2, the consent application for Durant's, one new lot, Lake Ridge Road, Bell Lake. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, Mayor Robinson, the application here is to create a new lot on an existing private right-of-way at the east and northeast end of Bell Lake. The property had some topographical challenges, so generally when they're large enough lots as this was, we don't have a difficulty. I was concerned about services, independent services such as wells and septics. So we sent it off to North Bay, Mattawa, and they have supported the ability of this property to get services for their purposes. And so with the conditions that have been recommended, including a rezoning after talking to staff, this property should qualify for the consent that's proposed.
Any questions or comments? I just noted on there that the applicant sort of suggested a couple spots suitable for septic beds, and Mattawa kind of said no to that, but they did see some other on their own. It's kind of a strange turn of events.
Yes, it was. And what they require is 2 spots. So they found 2 spots in addition to Mr. Durant's, who interestingly enough is a civil engineer. So it was most interesting, but they did find 2 spots. So that should cover that issue off.
Okay. And this is not, I mean, a large parcel of land overall, like over 8 hectares, and then this part being severed off. I mean, I would hope this is not going to be a situation where this piece now, next piece next year, next piece the year after, which we know.
If I could just sort of respond to that, the balance of the property has some environmental challenges, so I don't think that will be the case. This would be the only clean, what I'll call clean shoreline that's left associated with this large acreage.
Okay. And I do note this is retained by, we have our road standard for, what's the word I'm looking for?
Private road standard?
Private road standard for that, which I guess everyone's been made very aware that that's what applies in this particular circumstance. So, Councilor Ryman, question?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just the, I guess, concern, there was a note from our CBO regarding the building envelope, and you show road allowance. I wasn't sure if that was, if he received any response to that. regarding the show allowance, if it was owned or not.
Mrs. West.
The shore road allowance does not appear to be owned. However, if they require it, there is the option to purchase it in the future for the potential purchaser of the lot. And then they would, the 10-meter standard setback would be applied to this property as well. So there is that option if they need it.
Thank you.
I think on Councillor Ryman's point is raised by the CBO. At this point, without shore road allowance, is there enough room for the building envelope?
I refer that to Mr. Jackson.
Or is Mr. Dixon still following us here? Mr. Jackson, Mr. Dixon?
Well, I don't know if Kim's still around, but there is sufficient area. It will be challenging because the topography is on the steep side. I'm certain that with the acreage that's involved, there shouldn't be an issue.
Mr. Dixon?
Yeah, my concern was mainly just to make sure that the lot, when it's created, because the way it was presented to us with the documents that were provided, it wasn't entirely clear whether they were including the unknown shore road allowance in that total area lot size. But I assume that when everything gets surveyed, it's going to have to meet that minimum size. So they'll just adjust the boundary lines accordingly to make sure it meets the minimum. Whether they, well, and then when the shore road, or if the shore road is required later, then I just want to make sure that they knew that that wasn't owned for the prospective purchaser.
Is there a way we can sort of capture that in one of our conditions? I'll leave that with staff anyway, in terms of, because the concern has been raised by Councillor Ryman and Councillor Dixon. So just so we somehow, I guess, just as one of the conditions to make sure they're aware that if it may not have space on it without the shore road allowance, but that'll be captured by our regular zoning anyway. Mrs. West.
Through you, Your Worship. The survey will have to have the minimum lot area and frontage requirement without the shore road allowance being included. So when they transfer it, it will show on the survey that the shore road allowance is not owned.
Okay, thank you. Answers the question, Councillor Ryman.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Councillor Gregory, sorry.
I'm waving at you here. No, my question is about that same piece of property. Is there room, once they've decided what the area will be to put a home in there, is there room to turn around? Because that road is really, really wicked. And to be able to back out onto that road, it would be an absolute disaster, I think. Has anybody else looked at it? I mean, constables pulled me out of there. Keep that in mind, I guess.
That's a story for later, I suppose, but. Mr. Jackson, or have you looked at it that way in terms of driveway access?
Yeah, I looked at it carefully. Actually, there's a lot that's not dissimilar next door. And so it does have a turnaround on a similar sized topography. So it is doable. It's a matter of cost in terms of repairing a circular driveway, but Councillor Gregory is quite correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll bring that forward. Thank you. Item 6.3, consent application number 23 for Mon Estate, lot additions, Oak Ridge Road South on Georgian Bay. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. The three lots involved in this property were all acquired by the Mon family and put in different names. They all had, in fact, a number of encroachments on each other. So what this application does is, in fact, correct all those three encroachments with various things like driveways, wells, parking areas, and some buildings. So it's more or less a number of technical corrections so that each of the lots no longer encroaches on adjoining properties, so that the family who is now looking after the estate can finalize the properties involved in this location.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay, so it looks pretty straightforward in terms of cleaning up those lots down there. Bring that one forward then as well. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
Good night, Councilor.
Matters arising under planning or building? Bylaw enforcement, matters arising?
None, your worship.
Fire protection, report of the fire chief, 2020-07. Mr. Leduc.
Thank you, your worship. Just a couple of categories tonight. So in training, so during the month of August, again, our training was broken down into two distinct evenings. 5-person training groups occurred on Monday evenings with 2 sessions. 10-person training groups occurred on Tuesdays. Each station training separately, but potentially using the same fire ground. This arrangement will remain in effect until the end of September. In our community support, firefighters continue to participate in the Rotary Club Sobeys food delivery to shut-ins. This happens every Friday morning. And after discussions again with Rotary last week, there is no current end date for this program. They suspect that it's probably going to carry through well into 2021. Open air burning enforcement, due to the fact that we had a little bit wetter month of August, our enforcement was not required as much, but we did have one enforcement action that resulted in a POA Part 1 charge to the offender. Mutual aid training. So coming up in September, we're going to be doing mutual aid training with McKellar Fire Department for tanker shuttle evolutions. That's going to be starting again in mid-September. One for us to practice, 2 for McKellar Fire Department to get themselves ready for their challenge for their recertification. Also, with Town of Perry Sound Fire Department, some of our officers are teaching some advanced auto extrication to their members, and in return, a select group of McDougall firefighters will be training with Town of Perry Sound aerial evolutions on Tower 1. And then just finally, as a matter, the fireworks program that we had suspended in May, that we thought we might be able to shoot over Thanksgiving weekend, is it's not going to be attainable with the outdoor group size being still restricted to 100, and normally we're probably over 1,000 that would attend. So we're postponing our fireworks until sometime in 2021, most likely, hopefully back into May, if allowable.
Thank you. Questions on that report? Matters arising, fire department?
None, your worship.
Okay, thank you. Emergency management, just one item there, the COVID-19 emergency response declaration of emergency. At this point, it's still standing unless someone has some comment on it. Okay. Matters arising under emergency management. Recreation, 10-1, report of the Director of Parks and Recreation. General update, Mr. Leduc.
Your worship, a couple of things again, our standing order for maintenance. So our daily early morning disinfection of the washrooms at McDougall Recreation Center and Nobel Beach continue. This has worked out very well for us for the last number of months. Under our facilities, so all of our park amenities are in use with the exception of the Wabamek Community Hall, which remained off limits to the public. On July 24th, when Ontario Phase 3 indoor went into effect, our indoor group restrictions had been increased to 50 with the continued maintenance of a 2-meter distance spacing between people that may be inside. So just to bring it to your attention, so this would allow rentals at the Wabamun Community Hall to resume with a half capacity of 45 persons. The catch is that there a desire for the public to use the facility in consideration of the state of the pandemic currently in our area. So, and sort of to answer that question, you know, I've inquired at the office as to, has there been any demand, and there has not been any demand to rent the facility. So if we did choose to resume renting, it would require our staff to deep clean the facility after each use. And the topic is mentioned here just to keep council informed of the level of operation adjustments that can occur. And I do have a recommendation at the end here. Now, under our beaches and playgrounds, our grading and tilling of all of our beach sand and playground sand was completed on all locations in August. One of the things that we always experience when we get into August and early September is Canada goose tend to be problems at certain areas, certain waterfront properties. We make every effort to you know, keep on top of the goose dropping removal, and we continue to do that this year. So now, with regard to our Wabamun Hall facility, it is my recommendation that the community hall remain closed to public use until further notice.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, Councillor Ryman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just regarding our beach, the Domewell Beach, I know that at the last meeting, there was comments made regarding boats anchoring out from the beach and coming in, and I know we addressed that. And I did receive some comments just recently. I guess the same thing happened, and I guess there was a number of boats that did anchor, and I guess one boat wasn't really, I guess, following all the rules, I guess, so to speak. And I just wanted to bring that to our attention. And I know that we did talk about possibly, I know we can't do anything about boats anchoring out because I know we don't own the waterfront. But I know that we were talking about perhaps next year looking at maybe putting some kind of a flotation device out there to hopefully mitigate some of that problem. But I just wanted to bring that to council's attention that I did receive some more comments on that. However, I did receive comments that the beach is absolutely excellent. Like the staff is doing a great job. There, a lot of people were very impressed about the parking lot. So kudos to staff, and I think they did a great job all through the summer in maintaining that beach. But I thought I'd just bring that forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Gregory?
Yes, Your Worship, my question just has to do with whether or not we can put boys out in the water when the swimming is starting next year. Are we allowed to do that, or do we have to get special permission from someone?
Mr. Leduc?
Your Worship, we would be able to buoy off the area that we want to have as our designated swim zone.
Okay. Thank you.
I suspect we'll probably have some sort of a wrap-up report from staff all around in terms of this past summer's activities at all our facilities and what rules will stick or what rules will have to be changed or whatever. So I'm anticipating that will come once we get this summer season behind us completely in terms of doing it. But I mean, the compliments definitely come in from our residents and from outside residents. The complaints tend to be coming in from outside residents for our facilities, what I'm finding. So I mean, it's not surprising given the some of the steps that we had to take for our residents' use. Anyway, we'll look forward to something sort of wrapping it all up into the reason. But it's good to have input coming back in from councillors and staff just in terms of how people are reacting to the steps that we have taken. And the McDougall Rec Center, I see activity there. So is that the pickleball group that's there on a regular basis again? Mr. Leduc?
Yes, Your Worship. And they generally had been using two specific time slots, Monday mornings and Thursday afternoons. But they noticed that because there were so many people that were enjoying pickleball, that many of the members just go there all the time to play pickleball rather than restrict themselves to only two days a week.
Yeah. It's good to see it being used. Well, it's good. Other matters arising under recreation? Public Works, item 11.1, report of the manager of Public Works, 2020-06. Monthly report, Mr. Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. Just to outline my report for Public Works, we've been really busy with regular routine maintenance. We've been using a lot of the, a whole lot of the wrap at the landfill on a lot of our roads, shouldering, etc., stuff like that. It's really turning out great. It's working well. Also, our roads need study is coming along well. I would say we're about 65 to 70% complete. We still have an additional roads count or a traffic count this early fall. And I know we don't want to talk about winter, but we're already starting to get ready for winter. We've got our blade orders in and starting to go over everything and thinking about the winter season. That being said, our new 550 truck has been spotted at the dealership, and we are expecting it soon. So other than that, I think that's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions or comments regarding Public Works? Okay. There was some, I know I've been on Big Sound Road several times. It certainly turned out very nice there. It's a great addition to that neighborhood to have that done. There was some talk of maybe we might be able to move Lake Forest up to this year. Is that still a possibility, or is that being left on the schedule for next year as scheduled? I'm not sure if Mr. Hunt or Mr. Thompson. Mr. Hunt?
I'm going to do that. We're going to move that to next year.
Okay.
By the time we finish Big Sound and all the paving cuts and stuff that we had to do this year, there's no way we can get it done properly. So we're going to move that next spring.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Item 11.2, under Public Works, from Bill and Patricia Krieger, 9 Mile Lake Road, concerns regarding the rail crossing. They've sent in correspondence on that. I'm not sure if anyone in staff is in a position to make comment on this at this point in time, or is it something that you're investigating and we'll get back to council on? Mr. Hunt?
Yeah, we are investigating this year. The section where we're speaking of, it does get a bit rough coming off the highway with the traffic, but we do do our best to keep it graded. It is graded now. It is our plan in the future to grade that piece coming off the highway, so it does not get so potholy, but so you'll see that, if not in 2021's budget, you'll probably see it in 22's budget. So it is on the list. It's in a priority sequence, and it's just not there right now. But we'll do our best to keep that gravel as good as we can.
Okay. Is that something we have to coordinate with the railway when we're doing that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can respond back to Mr. and Mrs. Krieger then, just in terms of that we've heard their concerns and what we're planning to do about those. Okay. Thank you. Any matters arising under Public Works? Okay. Environment, Waste Management. Item 12.2, report of the Environmental Services Supervisor, Mr. Goldman. Welcome.
Yes, hello, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Great, yeah, I have the report for tonight. Just a quick update with we are still department-wide following all the COVID-19 procedures and been able to keep our essential services running a priority. We have also been able to maintain regulatory compliance as well. Out at the landfill, the facility has been functioning well. We've done the yearly, since completed the yearly cleaning of the infiltration ponds. We're preparing for the high flows in the fall, and there's been no major operational problems to report. On the water side, everything there is functioning well. All of our system monitoring shows we are within the compliance with the MECP regulations. And we are preparing for a system-wide audit and license and permit renewal upcoming this fall. And as for Crawford Septic, we've been monitoring it, and the seasonal flows are normal, and there's been nothing out of the ordinary to report.
Okay. So no recommendations then in terms of environmental services, I see from your report?
No recommendations at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from council? No. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Matters arising under environment? Okay. Finance, accounts payable resolution, moved by Councillor Malat, seconded by Councillor Gregory, that the attached list of accounts payable for August 19th, 2020 in the amount of $691,764.22 and September 1st, 2020 in the amount of $125,121.88 and payroll for August 13th, 2020 in the amount of $45,373.17 and August 27th, 2020 in the amount of $52,582.21 be approved for payment. Discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Item 2 from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark. Safe Restart funding allocation. Mrs. Robinson, any comments on that?
Yes, thank you very much. This funding is in order to mitigate some of the COVID expenses that we have experienced. So far, the province has put very few restrictions on the funding requirements. However, they are to be used for anything to do COVID related, whether that be IT things in order to help people work from home or attend virtual meetings like tonight. And then some of the other items would include, hand sanitizer systems in our buildings, putting up plexiglass screens in our office and so forth. There will be reporting requirements for this funding in 2021. And at this time, we are around $25,000 to date. However, this funding was for $236,000. So what the province is recommending that anything unused by year end is put into a reserve to be used for other pandemic related expenditures in 2021.
Okay. Thank you. Questions or comments? Council? No. Anyway, it's a good move on the province. I know they promised that early on, and it's good to see they followed through with that the funding is going to be available there. So it's good that you and your department have been tracking it since day one, so we know exactly what those expenditures are. Thank you. Any matters arising under finance? Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you. Just a few quick updates. I have been watching our tax arrears very closely. We do have our first installment of our final taxes due next Friday. So at that time, I will have a better idea as to where we stand in terms of comparison to last year in our tax arrears. However, at this time, we're currently at about only 5% higher than we were at this time last year. So that is very encouraging considering we were at 24%, I believe, higher. That was in the spring. So that is encouraging news. Our auditors have finished their review and our financial statements are currently in the draft position, and they will be preparing their presentation for council to attend virtually, hopefully early October. And the last item is the province is lifting their mandate on September 11th to allow tax sales to resume. We currently have a few properties that were in tax sale. However, since the pandemic arrived, we put a stop to those tax sales. Those tax sales will be able to come due after the prescribed waiting period and as well as advertising period. So that will be in November of this coming year. So hopefully we can wrap up some of those outstanding tax issues with those properties.
Okay, thank you. Questions? I had a question from a ratepayer today about not being able to pay their taxes with a credit card in the office. And in all honesty, I didn't know if we had offered that before this or not, because I'm not tasked with that in my household to look after that. So I wasn't sure whether that was something just because of the current situation or if we'd never had that. Mrs. Robinson.
Thank you. So we used to allow people to come into the office to pay their taxes using Visa or MasterCard debit, obviously. However, since we came back into the office, everybody back in order to help alleviate some of the congestion of people just coming in to make a payment, we've now offered it online. So people can pay by Visa or MasterCard, Amex online. So the other issue is that there are fees associated with credit card payments. So sometimes what will happen is if people pay by their credit card, people in the municipality would also be borrowing that fee. So this will alleviate the amount of fees that we pay as a municipality to fund these credit cards, as these people that choose to pay that way online will then bore the fee to pay by credit card.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters arising? Finance? No. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Administration. Item 14.1, report of the clerk, 2020-07, Bill 197, changes to the Municipal Act. Mrs. West.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report summarizes a number of legislative changes that have occurred with COVID-19. Bill 197 being the most recent, amended the Municipal Act to expand the authority for municipalities to amend the procedural bylaw to provide for electronic participation in open and closed municipal meetings and to allow members participating electronically to be counted towards quorum beyond times that are declared as an emergency. So currently, we are able to meet in this forum because of McDougall's declared emergency. The province lifted their emergency declaration, but extended emergency orders, so we would not be able to continue electronically under their declaration any longer. So the recommendation to council is that we amend our procedural bylaw further. This time it's only to allow electronic participation during a declared emergency, so that we can operate this way should we decide to lift the emergency, not to have this as the only a bearing reason to have a declaration, right? So I'd like to recommend that we amend the procedural bylaw for a term of 1 year, and we can revisit how that's working. Perhaps we find we have more public interest in our meetings by streaming them online. We would have to do a live stream at that point rather than a recording that we post at a later date. The legislation also allows for a vote by proxy for members of council. My report notes that staff do not consider it necessary at this time, but I can bring a report further to council on that item if interested.
Okay. Thank you. Questions? Comments? Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Worship. I do support the clerk's recommendation on for the electronic participation she wants to put in there. So that's all I think.
And that would be for situations of emergency only. Is that your suggestion for all our meetings going forward?
So through you, Your Worship, it would be to allow electronic participation in general. Because as soon as we lift our declaration, we'll have to meet in person and we'll have to open our doors to the public again. So this authority allows us, if we're, depending on what's happening with the pandemic, it doesn't sound like it's going away anytime soon, but McDougall feels the rest of our operations are going well, and when you decide to lift our declaration, we can continue operating in that manner.
Okay, and we would record at that point if we did have electronic, or would we live stream?
We would live stream. The province didn't recommend that we record and post our meetings the following day the way we have been, but to have a live stream, and that recording of the live stream would be online and be recorded at the same time online. So it would be there for people to view after the meeting.
Okay. Councillor Gregory?
Your Worship, have they made any comments in regards to the number of people that could be online as opposed to those that would be sitting in the chamber?
This is West.
Through you, Your Worship. Right now, we're operating in this manner as a agreed upon council. So it doesn't limit the number of council members in the council chambers. We have determined our maximum capacity for this room would be 13. So we could potentially have all of council in here and physically distance, but it would only allow for a limited number of public participants.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Was council in favor of the recommendations in this? Yeah. All right, so the nodding heads have it.
Yep. Bobby here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14.2, report of the clerk, 2020-08, application to purchase shore road allowance for Taylor Bushy. Mrs. West.
Thank you, Your Worship. Fairly straightforward application on Manitowoc Lake. We do have neighbors to the southeast that are currently in the process of purchasing their shore road allowance, and another neighbor further north on the same shoreline area here that it's also in the process of purchasing their shore road allowance. Ms. Taylor Bushy has advised us that she would like to replace an existing cottage that's getting to some age, so there may be a slight encroachment with a covered porch into the shore road allowance, still maintaining the requirements of the zoning bylaw front yard setback of 10 meters.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. So is council in favor of the recommendation? Maybe just by show of hands, everyone's in favor of? Okay, looks like it's unanimous, so we'll go with the recommendation and proceed with that. Item 14.3, shore road allowance for Glavin. Mrs. West.
Thank you, Your Worship. This application is on the Seawood River, right neighboring where the Burnside Bridge crosses the river there. I have circulated the application to staff. I had a conversation with the CAO and the manager of Public Works. The lot line projection as it meets where the bridge connects would be angled in a way that would allow us to maintain that bridge and not be encroaching on any private lands. Other than that, we have no concerns with the application. Recommendation is that council approve this request in principle and direct staff to proceed with the application subject to the public process.
Thank you. Any questions on this one? No. Anyone opposed to the staff recommendation to proceed with this? No? Okay. proceed. Report of the clerk 2020-10, application to purchase shore road allowance for Wagner. Mrs. West.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another application on the Seawood River, very straightforward. Again, the applicants wish to further develop their lands and they need to purchase the shore road allowance to obtain the additional area for lot coverage. But again, they would be in compliance with the zoning bylaw with the proposal that they brought forward.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Anyone have any concerns with this recommendation? No? Okay. Okay to proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 from Danny Whalen, President Phonom, just a media release regarding the AMO conference summary. Item 6 from Katie O'Connell, Manager, Integrated Aggregate Operations Section, resuming aggregate application timelines and public consultation under the Ag Resources Act. There for information. Nancy Reagan, Nobel resident, requests that the Municipality of McDougall join the partners for climate protection and the climate action plan for the Georgian Bay Biosphere region. Similar correspondence, matter of fact, identical, from Richard and Sue Woodhouse on Oak Ridge Road. And from Rebecca Pollock and Greg Mason, similar request for McDougall to join the IceCap group, further to the deputation we heard earlier tonight. And as earlier discussed, we're going to have some further discussion on that item at a future council meeting, along with some input from staff. Item 10, report from Councillor Gregory regarding the virtual AMO conference annual general meeting program. Councillor Gregory.
Okay. Besides being interesting, it was all very factual information that they gave us. Enjoyed it. Learned a whole lot, I think, as much as I could. But I did find that it missed something. Of course, it missed the personal contact and sort of the, I don't know, the funny comments that everyone would make. It was sort of very serious and, or no dinners together, that sort of thing. So it's okay, but I still missed that part. So I wondered if Mr. Clark really did impress me as far as the way he spoke, what he spoke about. Whether or not I'm just gullible and I got taken in, I don't know. I wonder if he's going to be the next conservative leader of the country. He's pretty good at it. So never know. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there's no doubt that the programs are a big part of attending these conferences, but the networking that goes on is also a big part of these conference attendance as well, and that's pretty hard to duplicate in a virtual situation. But good on AMO though for doing what they did to have it in the format they did, and thank you for attending on behalf of McDougall.
Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Item 11 from Gordon Knowles, General Manager of CB&DC, Community Business Development Center, regarding our annual contribution to the Parry Sound area CB&DC operations. Matter for moving forward to the budget. Any questions or comments on that report? Item 12 from the Town of Parry Sound, proposed zoning bylaw amendment number 2 Oyster Park Drive for Walmart Incorporated. I'm not sure if Mrs. West or Mr. Hunt, if you can kind of encapsulate for council just exactly what the town's rezoning here. Mrs. West.
The request is to rezone the environmentally protected area on the property within the town of Parry Sound. As we all know, this property borders on the McDougall Parry Sound boundary. So there is a small portion of EP that they're requesting to rezone, as I mentioned, from EP to the highway commercial zone. And there's a strip of land that is zoned highway commercial. So there's E3 with a hold, so they're requesting to remove that hold as it travels along Coastal Park Drive. I have reached out to the planning department at the town to request a copy of the report, just to see what the proposal is on that.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, we're not aware of any activity at that intersection on this development in McDougall then?
Nothing.
Nothing, yeah, okay. Thank you. Item 8, the 2021 proposed council meeting schedule. Everyone had a chance to take a look at that? If you got any concerns, or? I think the only item, I guess, is the same as this year, whether we just do one meeting in July and one meeting in August. West.
Your worship to council, I have, that is the proposal on this, is that we have one meeting in July. And rather than having a meeting in the middle of July and then at the beginning of August, I have proposed that it actually be the middle of August, the second week, not the third, because that is typically when AMO conferences on.
Scott?
I could comment on that. We've had this scheduled discussion several times. We had it again at the staff meeting today. And we're just wondering if council would entertain one meeting a month all year long. We kind of laid out a work plan for this year. It's been working well. Worked through the summer. It's worked for the last 5 months. We think it's quite possible, and it can be quite successful to do it once a month rather than twice a month. It may mean maybe the meeting starts at 6 o'clock versus 7, but I think it's quite possible to do the meeting because it's a combined committee council meeting, and I think we can do everything in one night versus 2 nights, which allows more time for staff to do the reports. I know Mrs. West, it seems like she knows she's done one meeting, she's trying to get rid of another meeting, and to build up a decent pile of research is tight sometimes, most times, and it applies to the rest of us too. So I'm wondering if council would consider bringing back a revised schedule for one meeting a month for 2021 as a trial.
Quick comments on it. It's something I think council has to take away and think about before. I'm just hearing it tonight, as I am for the first time now. Are there any early impressions?
Yeah, excuse me, your worship, yeah, I agree with you. You just take it away and sit with it for a bit, that'd be great.
Okay. One thing that quickly comes to my mind is just deputations, which can be quite time consuming on a meeting. Though we try and hold people to 10 minutes. I mean, when you have an interesting and important issue like we had tonight, then we normally will let people go on a little bit longer. And if we happen to say, and I know we would normally limit like no more than 2 deputations maximum on any council night. But if we had more people who want to do deputations, I mean, if we had to go through 5 deputations in one council meeting, by the time the deputations are done, then council's going to be pretty wiped out at that point in time. So, I mean, that's just a quick impression from me doing it, but I like to take it away too and put some thought into it too. So we have downscaled already. We were 2 on, 1 off. And then we went to this where we were just two meetings a month because our original schedule was 2 meetings. We did back to back and then we had 1 off. One time was how we did it. And then we went to this schedule now. And this one too, I just noticed too, I guess January, just 1 meeting as well in this proposed one. So under this one, we've already got 3 months of the year where we're just 1 meeting doing it. Mrs. West?
Sorry, because of the new year and the holidays, the first meeting would fall, I think, the first week of January. I think it was the 2nd. So I didn't think council or staff would be prepared for the first meeting. And I was following our format from last year too, where we reduced it to 1 in January. We can always call a special meeting if we need it on those months that we have one.
All right, so anyway, if there's no other quick comments on it, then we'll take it away and bring it back to the next council meeting for Mrs. West.
Your worship, just for clarification, typically what I would do is bring this back for resolution. Would council prefer that I wait maybe until October, and that gives an opportunity for further discussion next meeting?
Yeah, I would bring it back for discussion at the next meeting and then wait on the resolution.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Council's okay with that direction?
Yep.
Yep. Yep. It's not that time sensitive anyway. No. No. Okay. Any matters arising, their administration? Request for support from the town of Gore Bay, requesting support of the long-term care facility inspections. Also from the town of Gore Bay, support of COVID-19 funding. 15.3 from Township of Lake of Bays. Moved by Councillor Gregory, second by Councillor Lott. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall supports the attached resolution from the Township of Lake of Bays and hereby declares their support in principle for Muskoka Parry Sound Riding Cooperative Broadband Initiative. And further, this resolution be circulated to the West Parry Sound Smart Community Networks, the Parry Sound Muskoka Community Network, Scott Aitchison, MP for Parry Sound Muskoka, Norm Miller, MPP for Parry Sound Muskoka, and the municipalities of the districts of Muskoka and Parry Sound. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Constable. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall supports the attached resolution from the Township of the Archipelago requesting provincial funding to the West Parry Sound Health Center, and further this resolution be shared with all West Parry Sound municipalities, Minister Clark, Minister Elliott, MPP Norm Miller, and the West Parry Sound Health Center administration. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Millat, second by Councillor Gregory. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall supports the attached resolution from the Municipality of Whitestone requesting federal support to improve broadband internet access across Northern Ontario and the smaller communities. And further, that a copy of this resolution be distributed to all 22 municipalities in the District of Parry Sound with copies forwarded to the Honourable Minister Steve Clark, the Honourable Navdeep Bains, the Honourable Minister Catherine McKenna, the Honourable Minister Marianne Monsef, Minister Ahmed Hussein, Minister Laurie Scott, MPP Norm Miller, MPP Vic Fideli, Phonom Chair, and AMO Chair. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. Matters arising? Support? No. Motions with notice have been previously given. Not aware of any. Committee reports, the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, news release regarding COVID-19 and school reopening, public health information for families, available August 25th, also from the health unit, holding hepatitis A vaccine clinics to help combat the rise in cases. Item 3 from Mrs. Watkinson, Acting Deputy Clerk, Treasury Assistant Township McKellar, supporting the appointment of Councillor Millat to the EMS Advisory Committee, which I think means all 4 municipalities are now agreed to that. Mrs. West.
Thank you, Your Worship. All 4 municipalities that share the representative have appointed Councillor Millat to the EMS Advisory Committee. I have sent a copy of all those resolutions to Mr. Thompson Chief Thompson at the town of Perry Sound. And he will be taking a report to their council to also appoint him as a member of this advisory committee.
Okay. So then we'll make Councillor Millat aware of what the schedule is then for the meetings and when he can first attend. And yeah.
I did get an email from Mr. Thompson today.
Did you? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right, thanks. Item 4, Community Policing Advisory Committee, Police Service Board reports for the second quarter, April to June, the collision report from April to June, and the report for service for patrol, self-reporting, and 911 calls. There for information. From Jamie Young, Housing Advocate, Prairie Sound District Social Services Administration Board, the Prairie Sound District Prairie Sound Housing and Homelessness Plan Report 2019-2020. An interesting report and read. Any questions, comments? Okay, matters arising under committee reports. Okay. Report of the Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. Generally, things are going well. The staff and department are learning to navigate through the COVID world. As the Treasury reported earlier, tax bills are going up with very few problems or concerns. The front office continue to deal with some parking ticket infractions and complaints, with the majority coming from users outside of McDougall. This month, we had a tender for the office renovations closed, and we only had one bidder. The tender amount is above the 2020 budgeted amount, which is somewhat surprising to me. The tender amount was for $99,300. COVID, I think, has a lot to do with the price increase in this. I think with the labor force being what it is, and the drastic increase in material costs this summer, I think many projects have gotten out of control a bit for pricing. This was a priority in updating the municipal office prior to having the exterior repairs done and painted. We currently have $60,000 in the budget for this work. I know this is quite a bit above the budget. I don't believe that the prices are going to get any better now. Every time in the past, as having done lots of construction work myself, every time there's been a glitch in the construction world where pricing has gone up for materials for whatever reason, that's where it stays. That becomes the new base again. To think that the materials are all going to go back down where they were a year ago, I don't believe that's going to happen. So what I'm asking council to consider is that they approve the tender we get, the work done in the building that needs to be done. We do have some options for reserves. It's my understanding we could use some of the building reserve fund money, but it's probably better to come out of general reserves if we do this. The exterior painting and minor repairs will have to be pushed off to next year in the 2021 budget. And like I said, there does not appear to be, to me, any indication that prices are going to return to 2019 levels. You want to have a discussion before I move on about that?
Hey, what I'll do is you have a resolution for that, so maybe I'll put that on the table and then we can have the discussion as part of that before we continue with your report. Moved by Councillor Gregory, second by Councillor Millat, that the Council for the Municipality of McDougall approve the tender for the McDougall Township office renovation submitted by WS Morgan Construction Limited in the amount of $99,300. Discussion. Councillor Ryman.
Thank you, Worship. I was just wondering, I guess, I know it's been said before, what does the renovations all involve?
Okay.
If we could just have a recap.
Good question, because I pulled up the tender myself when I got the agenda just to remind myself in terms of what was being done. But maybe Mr. Hunt, if you can, I mean, pretty much it was that far side, the front of the office, to take the wall down and to put some windows across the front over there. Really just replacing the windows here, I think, on this side of it. If I'm correct. Mr. Hunt, you can fill in what I've missed.
The mayor's pretty much summed up. It basically refaces the front of the building, put some windows in the front, cleans up some, what we believe is some drainage issues on the roof, so, and the wall. And it cleans up all these windows that are, they've lost their seals now, they're starting to clog up. And they do have some leaking around the windows as well, so. It's probably the first actual construction of an exterior building since it was built, I believe. I don't know that there's been any other renovations to this building in the last 50 years on the exterior. So that's kind of where we're at right there.
Any other questions, comments? Councilor Millat?
No, just as seconding the motion, I wasn't aware there was any going on, so it's nice to know what I was seconding or voting on. So it's just these windows here and then new windows in the front? There is no windows in the front right now.
There's no windows, so the stone wall has to be cut down, capped. There's some support posts that are going there, reframing the top of the roof there for support, and then the windows across the front. And all these windows got to come up and go back in.
Stone staying the same, just new windows.
Yeah, just, I'm sure we can. But we can, yeah, this particular wall stays.
Okay.
We had several discussions about, do we do one, do we do both, do we do none? We think we'd like to have it just at the one. We do have a kind of a concept look, you might say. That kind of started us to take the one side down. And just give us 1 second and where I can bring it up here. See you in the idea what we're trying to end up with at the end of the day.
Apologies.
That's the tender.
Yeah, the drawings are in here though, right?
Yeah,
I thought you meant the concept.
the front elevation drawing shows it the best right there. Just back up one, that's the new front one there, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it'll look like when we're done. That's it.
Councilor Constable?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To me, I don't know, it seemed pretty high for the amount of work that needs to get done. And I do understand that prices have gone up, but I almost wonder too, if with everything going on, if maybe more people didn't bid just because of the time of year it is, and wondering, is it possible to put this off given the late part of being in the season now? Are we better to try and bring this back in the spring? And I mean like really early spring to see if we can get some other interest from other contractors, or because that's a lot of money for just replacing a few windows on one side and then just cutting down a wall and adding a few on the other, more or less. I know there's a little bit more to it than that, but.
Other questions? Comments? I mean, I'll just, my 2 cents. I mean, I kind of, 60,000 seemed like a lot for that job. When we budgeted that amount for it, looking at what had to be done, and then now to have it, I mean, it's almost doubling. I mean, not quite, but for all intents and purposes. And I know it's got to be a big factor. It's just we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I think people were late getting started, so everyone's busy rushing to get their projects done. Material costs are high right now. And I have 2-part, I guess on this particular item, I'm kind of the mind too, maybe if it's, these aren't, I guess the question to staff, is there anything critical here? If this were to wait till next year, is there anything critical or any risks that we're taking by putting it off till next year? There's no risks? Oh, there's no health and safety issues with mold or anything like that, or no? Yeah, okay, well then I'm kind of I think I would throw my hat in terms of saying, let's just give it another try, which is the first part. My second part is, our tender process overall doesn't seem to work well for us. It seems to work well for gravel and sand and those kind of things, but it seems that when we come to building projects, we just don't, I think a lot of contractors that could do jobs just won't take the time to work on a tender because their success rate's not very good and it takes a lot of time to put it together and to do it. So I don't know, like, I'm not sure if we should be revisiting just how we do some of these building projects. I mean, I look at the expense of some of them, and it just kind of, to me, seems high for some of the projects that we've already done. Almost like we're municipalities are a little bit, I mean, in your own case, in your own household, you would look at something with your budget and say, here's kind of what I expect. And then you go to a couple of contractors who you know and respect and say what, and usually it works out for you. But the tender process in the buildings, I'm just not content that we're getting the best bang for the buck that way. And I don't know if there's any other options for us in terms of pre-selecting contractors for certain projects and ones who we know will give us a price on them. We kind of do that with the sand and gravel and that, like there's only some that do it. But anyway, I just throwing that out for general comment for projects in the future for going forward overall, if there's something better, Mr. Hunt.
Well, there is another option. And it's an option we've used quite often in the past with myself is quite often in our construction tenders, you know, the municipalities become the general contractor. We become the general on the job. And I've acted in that capacity quite often. And what happens is we would just get prices from 2 or 3 contractors to work with us. They would do all the work, but we'd be the general on it. And quite often we get much better prices because they lose some of the liability and some of the risk, right? Because we're now the general. And so as long as the job you're doing, you're knowledgeable of it and you're cautious with it, you got some engineering help behind if you need it, you can be quite successful. And we have been quite successful. We put a brand new roof on the public works building. That was done in that manner. We done additions to the public works building. It was done in that manner. So we've been good at it. We've done other things we've done too the same way. That is an option, is to become the general and go up for pricing from contractors to give you either an hourly rate, a daily rate, or whatever you want to do. And you take this on yourself.
I think the Nobel Beach House was a similar situation where, I know there's been some roads projects too, like the Pine Ridge culvert is a prime example of that, the price that we end up completing that with compared to, I understand the flip side of that is you've got some more liability on the municipality for taking that on. And you also need to have staff that are capable of being in that supervisor position for a construction type project as well. But I certainly think when we start to see costs going way above our budgets, and I'm pretty sure we have pretty credible budgeting between the engineer and our staff in terms of what that particular project of any sort should be done. So anyway, I saw some hands going there. I'm not sure it was Councillor Ryan. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Worship. What the tendering process, was this tender, how was it advertised? Was it advertised in the paper? You did mention invitational bids. I guess, how was it advertised?
Mr. Hunt.
We just advertised on the website, and because we've been dealing with this project now for 2 years, we had other coastal contractors asking about it, and nobody replied. The only one replied this morning.
Okay. Councillor Milan.
I think going ahead to next year is a good idea. Myself, it's been extremely busy, booking like a year ahead in some cases too. And the thing that's got me with this here is I don't look at tenders, I don't do anything like that, but I'm on a preferred list. A lot of them, that's a surprise to me of doing it, and they just call me up because they can say, can you do this aspect? So I work through the general, and I just go in and do my stuff, and that's it. And Joe does the plumbing, and you don't have to try and find everybody, you're only responsible for your thing. And they just give me a time frame when they'd like me to work, and it's great. I just show up with my tools, my stuff, do my stuff, they give me a check, and I'm gone. I don't have to worry about trying to find the other sub-trades. So I like that idea that way, but it's, if you're looking at a tenant doing everything, you're responsible for everything. And if we can take that responsibility and sub it out that way, I think it'll be a lot cheaper and better. And that's.
Right. Any further discussion or comment before I call the question? I'd just like to, I guess, further with my comment in terms of my suggestion that it be postponed to next year. I mean, that's certainly no reflection on this particular bid that we got, because this contractor is very well known and very reputable in the area. So, I mean, that's not a single factor in my mind in my proposal for this. It's just a matter of the overall costing to our budget. We do try and adhere to our budgets fairly strictly, and this is quite a bit over our budget amount. And that's sort of what caught my attention right off the bat. And as I look at it and think it's worth, so since we have the resolution on the table, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. So I guess maybe, Mr. Hunt, in terms of your suggestions there, if you want to, it can either wait till next year and we rebid part of the tender process again to see if the market's any different at that point in time. But I think council was also quite willing to entertain if there's any other proposals in terms of using the sub-trades with municipality as the general, whatever. If there's a cost saving in there, then I think council would be quite receptive to hearing that as well, whether this year or next year before we re-tender it again. Did I capture everything from council correctly there? Okay, thank you. Continue with your report, Mr. Hunt.
Okay, so the Pool and Wellness Center project continues to move forward. The CEO committee, as you know, is working on finalizing some of the last few things, cost sharing formula, reviewing the Citizens Advisory Committee recommendations, quite a few of those. There's a partnership agreement and a property lease and operating management agreement with the YMCA. All those things have to be kind of summarized and tied together and built into the report to go to the pool committee meeting, which we're hoping to have probably within the next month, so we can get through some of these items. It is looking positive towards the pool. It looks like the funding is getting to be more and more of a possibility every day. So I think if the federal government decides to make some announcements, things we may be one of the lucky ones. Funding for the economic development officer has been approved by FEDNOR now, which is a good thing. We were kind of on a shoestring there for a while, wondering if we were going to get it or not. That has been approved. We have had a first round of interviews. We had 5 candidates interviewed. 2 were substantially above the 5. We're going to have a second interview with them on the 9th, with the intentions of bringing them into bring one of them back as soon as possible to get started with the ED over in Prairie Sound. Particularly, we're trying to get people, businesses back up and running with COVID, trying to find funding and support and money and services that they need. The landfill building, this has been an uphill battle from day one in the spring. One, COVID, trying to find engineering companies, soil work companies to get here. We finally got one here 6 weeks ago, or 7 weeks ago, to do the boreholes on the site to try to figure out where we want it. We had a spot located where I wanted the building. And the first borehole dropped about 23 feet into the ground. Not gonna happen. So we moved the building over. The location works legally as well. Found that the base was really good. Typically, all the material up there is sand and gravel, and where we have the building located now, it's sand and gravel. The problem with it is, it was not naturally there. It's been placed there, and it wasn't placed there with compaction. So The other way to put the building up now is to dig the 15 feet of gravel out, or sand and gravel out, and then put it all back in again, compacted. It's not a big ticket item, it's more of an inconvenience. We have the ability to do 95% of that ourselves anyway, but it's just work that has to be done that it wasn't planned on. So that's got to be done yet. I'm still waiting for the actual final report to come from the engineering company for the soils work. They told us verbally what we got to do, but I need to have it in my hand for any kind of tender for our structure like that there. You have to have that stuff. The reason it's been difficult for the floor, especially for the loading, is because of the landfill packer. It weighs 100,000 pounds. 100,000 pounds is divided by 4 steel wheels, which sits on, if you look at the weight of each of those wheels, only maybe 6 inches of that wheel actually sits on the concrete floor. So there's a tremendous amount of weight in 6 inches. You put 25,000 pounds in a 6-inch strip of concrete. The stress is tremendous. So the soil work has to be done. It has to be done right. And the concrete foundation, which is also the responsibility of the soil engineer, to tell us what the concrete strength and how thick it has to be. I'm still waiting for the final report. They said I'd have it by this Friday. They've told me that for the last 3 weeks. I keep hounding them, but I still don't have it. So given the time of year, I think at this point, we'll probably prep the foundation. Materials get ready for a base for next year. Because there's no way we're going to get a foundation up and a structure up. First of all, we have the ordinance steel structure, so we're not going to make it at all. So our plan now is to prep the base, get it ready, and have it kind of ready to go for early spring. I don't know. Having done lots of construction, I don't see us doing it any other way. That's just the way it's going to have to be for this year. Overall, I think the municipality is doing very well. We're watching COVID very closely, and we will not hesitate to make changes as necessary to adapt to any current conditions. I think council is in full support of that. If we need to change on the fly, we'll change on the fly. Staff is number one here, and that's just the way it's going to be. Any questions on the landfill building?
Council, questions, comments on the landfill building or in the report overall? I think given the first part of this in terms of the tender results for the building, I think it's, even though the soil conditions aside, it's probably not good timing anyway to be out in the market looking for pricing and doing that. So anyway, it would seem to make sense to put this off so that work can get done. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Worship. Not really involved with this, but I just wanted to get this out. I did receive a very positive comment today on a person that just moved to McDougall, and she was just absolutely impressed with how we do business. She's impressed with the overall area and what we're doing with regards to the road work. She says our taxes are well within line and stuff like that. So I just wanted to pass that on because it's really good to hear those very positive comments that she thinks that McDougall is a great place to be, and she's very happy to be here. So I just wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on CAO report? Mr. Hunt.
Oh, sorry. So those rising in this?
Yeah, well, there's general items of new business. You want to wait till the next item? Does that fit in there? But just under this, if whatever we end up doing with the building here at the front, we have to do something with our logo sign out there. It's getting pretty tattered and torn. I know if this project had gone ahead, that would have been part of it. It would have been done and gone. But if something's not going to happen, if it's going to be later rather than sooner, if it just comes down and just lettering put up or something, whatever, I'm not sure what, I didn't see in the elevation plan if there was going to be a new sign down below the windows, or was it moving over to this side, or what? This side?
Yeah, so the plan was to have either a stainless sign or whoever is, made out of metal and mounted to that wall on this side.
This side? Is that something that's not a big budget item that could be done then?
Oh, it can be done now.
Just so, yeah, just to clean that up. Be good. Council's agreeable to that. Do we know, do we have a costing on what that would be yet as part of?
Still kind of playing with the materials. There's
okay.
3 or 4 different kinds.
All right, well, it's on your radar screen. That's good. Okay, thank you for your report. General items and new business, Mr. Hunt.
I just want to bring up.
Councilor Constable has his hand up.
Oh, sorry. No.
Sorry, that was from before.
That was a test by the clerk to make sure you're still paying attention.
Today at the staff meeting, the annual Christmas party come up. And I think that's something we need to address. It takes a bit of planning. There's things that get done in that event that take some time. Generally, I think the consensus was that I think it would hear we cancel the Christmas party for this year, unless something drastically changes in the world. It means booking a facility ahead of time. Trying to book some entertainment, trying to get items ready for certain guests and that. So I think, given the circumstances, we think we should just maybe pass on the Christmas party this year. And our thought was, if maybe the mayor and the council could prepare a letter of appreciation for staff, and we could give it to them all, or send it to them all, or something like that. We can't do it in person. We normally do it in person. We thank everybody for all the hard work during the year. Maybe we could prepare some kind of letter of appreciation from the mayor and council. We can do that to them in some format, whether we, maybe the mayor and myself, or some councils can take the public works guys in the garage or something, in the fire hall, and environment and administration. I don't know if there's any other way to thank people personally rather than having them something or send it to their face. So, council has any thoughts on that, or if you come up with something better, more than happy to put it in the bucket.
Okay. I think, Christmas party is all about staff appreciation. It really is a staff function that councils, I know, enjoys going and having that chance one-on-one, but this isn't the environment to be doing that this year. So I don't think anyone's going to argue with the canceling it for 2020, and certainly we'll put our heads together in terms of coming up with some alternative ways of showing our appreciation doing it. So, but I think at this point, I wouldn't, unless anyone in council has strong feelings in terms of doing it. It sounds like the staff have already had their conversations and are recommending that it not proceed. So I think that's, unless anyone in council have any thoughts to the contrary. Okay, so.
Okay. We won't be booking any facilities, so we can move on with something different.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Any other general items in new business? Okay. Move on to bylaws. Bylaw 2020, number 41, moved by Councillor Ryman, second by Councillor Constable. That bylaw number 2020-41 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a subdivision agreement between the Grandview Estates, Inc. and the Corporation of the Municipality of McDougall be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion. All those in favor? It's carried. Pleasure of council to give this third and final reading tonight. Moved by Councillor Gregory, seconded by Councillor Malat, that bylaw 2020-41 be read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed. I guess maybe just for the benefit of the public, Mr. Hunt, can you just do a quick synopsis of what this subdivision entails?
Okay. Well, in 2017, a developer came to the table, wanted to create 20 lots on Nobel Road and Parkway, 4 lots on Parkway, 16 lots on Nobel Road from Parkway North on the west side. It's been a long time coming. There's been lots of obstacles to get through. We had to deal with MTO for permitting. We had to deal with M&R for reptile issues. We dealt with the railway, which was a big step, a big stumbling block for the longest time. And so here we are. That deal was signed last night, and the securities that came today. So with any luck, next summer, I don't see too many buildings going up this year because we still have to, the contractor has to construct a water main. Down the road for 16 lots that has to be completed before buildings can go up. This is a really, really good thing from McDougall. I think those lots will go quickly, and it's good to see. They're well needed. Mr. Strino has, this is his, I think it's his 3rd or 4th program in McDougall. So he's been a really good developer. He's created, he said 85. Mr. Strino's created 85 lots up till now in McDougall. So he's been a very good corporate citizen for us. He signed a deal now for another 20 lots. So on we go.
Okay. And it's good news. It's been a long time coming and some hurdles that we're able to work together with developer to get to that stage, but to have 20 new lots and going to be serviced with municipal water is it's a good thing as well. That's 20 more users on the system that are contributing to the economics of that. So it's all good. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Sign all these. Tracking sheet, no items for the tracking sheet, no items for closed session. Therefore, no ratification matters from closed session. Confirmation bylaw. Moved by Councillor Malat, second by Councillor Ryman. The bylaw 2020-40 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the committee council meeting held on September 2nd, 2020 be introduced and read a first and second time. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Constable, second by Councillor Gregory, that bylaw 2020-40 be read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Final discussion. All those in favor? Carried. By Councillor Gregory, second by Councillor Malat, that we do now adjourn at 8:58 p.m. All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, everyone. Did pretty well.